When a T-Rex looked up at the night sky, Saturn might have been completely naked. No rings, just a pale yellow dot. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about the most famous rings in the universe: they may be hundreds of times younger than the planet they orbit. Saturn is about 4.5 billion years old. Its rings? Possibly younger than flowers, younger than grass, younger than the dinosaurs that were stomping around while they formed. Which makes no sense. None. Because rings this enormous shouldn't just appear halfway through a planet's life. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you 3 things. 1, the single piece of evidence that convinced scientists these rings were born yesterday. 2, the 2024 discovery that blew that whole theory apart and suggested NASA was fooled by a cosmic magic trick. And 3, the part that actually keeps astronomers up at night: the fact that Saturn's rings are disappearing as we speak. There's a literal countdown running. And you're alive for the part where the rings still exist. Stick with me, because the answer to how old are they accidentally tells us how the whole thing is gonna die. And this isn't fringe stuff. The question is so old that in 1859, a young physicist named James Clerk Maxwell, yeah, that Maxwell, won a major prize for proving Saturn's rings couldn't possibly be solid. In the words of the scientist who recently took the best crack at the age, we've basically gotten closure on a question that started with James Clerk Maxwell. 160 years. One probe finally cracked it open. So how do you measure the age of something 1.4 billion kilometers away that you can't touch? You crash a spacecraft into it. In 2017, after 13 years orbiting Saturn, a probe called Cassini was running out of fuel. So NASA gave it a death sentence with a purpose. They sent it diving over and over, straight through the narrow gap between the planet and the inner edge of the rings, threading a needle at tens of thousands of kilometers an hour. They called it the Grand Finale. And on its final dive, Cassini deliberately burned up in Saturn's atmosphere to protect the moons below from contamination. But on the way down, it grabbed the one number nobody had ever measured: the weight of the rings. And the rings turned out to be shockingly lightweight. The entire ring system weighs only about a few tenths of Saturn's small moon Mimas. That's the one that looks like the Death Star. All that breathtaking spectacle, stretching wider than 20 Earths side by side, is a whisper of material. Here's why that matters to you. A low weight is a fingerprint of youth. And to understand why, you need to know what these rings are actually made of. Which is where it gets weird. Quick question: what color is dust? Hold that thought. Saturn's rings are over 95% pure water ice. Not rock, not gas, ice. Billions of chunks ranging from grains of sand to boulders the size of a house, all orbiting in a sheet so thin that to scale, it's thinner than a sheet of paper on a football field. Now, space is filthy. There's a constant drizzle of micrometeoroids, dark dusty grains raining through the solar system. And here's the logic that cracked the case. Think of fresh snow on your driveway. Leave it out, within days it's gray, then black, coated in grime. The longer it sits, the dirtier it gets. So a team led by physicist Sasha Kempf at CU Boulder used a special instrument on Cassini, a dust catcher shaped a bit like a bucket, to measure how fast that cosmic grime actually falls onto the rings. They analyzed 163 individual grains of dust caught drifting through the system. Then they asked the killer question: if the rings started as clean ice, how long would they need to sit out in this dust storm to get as dirty as they are now?
The answer, published in 2023, no more than 400 million years old. Other estimates pushed it even younger, as little as 10 to 100 million years. Saturn is 4.5 billion. So proportionally, if Saturn were a 45-year-old adult, the rings showed up last week.
The rings looked too clean to be old. Case closed, right? The dinosaurs really did watch a naked Saturn slowly grow its halo. Except there was one assumption buried in that logic. One. And in 2024, a team in Tokyo decided to test it. And what they found turns the entire story upside down. Before the twist, one loose thread, because it's the thread the twist pulls on. If the rings are young, where did all that ice come from? Picture Saturn a few 100 million years ago. A moon, a big icy one, maybe wandering comet, drifts too close. Saturn's gravity doesn't just pull it in, it pulls harder on the near side than the far side, stretching it until it tears itself apart. A moon shredded, smeared into a glittering disk of ice. That's the leading birth story for young rings, a cosmic crime scene, a murdered moon. And it's a beautiful theory. The only problem? In the long, calm, modern solar system, having a moon get destroyed that recently is statistically strange. The early solar system was a chaotic demolition derby, collisions everywhere. Today, things are quiet. Asking for a fresh moon murder a few million years ago is like asking for a brand new meteor crater to appear in your backyard this decade. Possible, but suspicious.
So either the rings really are young, and we got cosmically lucky with the timing, or the clean ice clock was lying to us. Guess which one a supercomputer just suggested?
Here's the assumption nobody questioned for years. Dust always darkens ice. Snow on your driveway gets dirty, so rings exposed to dust must get dirty too. Obvious, intuitive, and possibly completely wrong. In December 2024, a team led by Ryuki Hyodo at the Institute of Science Tokyo ran the actual physics of those tiny dust grains slamming into the ice. And remember, these aren't gently landing. Saturn's gravity whips them up to over 25 kilometers per second, 15 miles per second. At that speed, a dust grain hitting an ice boulder doesn't stick. It vaporizes instantly. Both the dust and a tiny patch of the ice flash into vapor. And here's the magic. That vapor turns into electrically charged nanoparticles. And Saturn has a powerful magnetic field, so those charged specks get yanked away, sucked down into Saturn, or flung out into space, instead of settling back onto the rings as grime. In other words, Saturn's rings might be self-cleaning. The ice isn't clean because it's young. It might be clean because it's dirt-proof. The clock everyone was reading? If barely any dust ever sticks, that clock runs almost infinitely slow. And the rings could be the same age as Saturn itself, 4 to 4.5 billion years old as the planet. Now, to be straight with you, this is not settled. We have a young rings camp and an ancient rings camp, and they're genuinely fighting over it right now. It remains one of the great open mysteries in planetary science. But here's what should give you chills. The most famous structure in our solar system, photographed millions of times, visited by a spacecraft for 13 years, and we still don't actually know how old it is, or how it was born. So here's the one thing I want lodged in your brain. Whether the rings are young or ancient, both camps agree on something terrifying. The rings are dying. Cassini caught Saturn's rings raining material down into the planet, a steady drizzle of ice falling out of orbit. There's a slow conveyor belt dragging ring material inward into Saturn forever, which means the rings have an expiration date. On a cosmic timescale, they are a temporary feature, a flicker. So tonight, actually go look. If you've got a backyard telescope, even a cheap one, point it at Saturn. Those rings snap into focus, and it stops being a fact and becomes a thing you saw with your own eyes. Because you are alive during the eye blink of cosmic history when those rings exist. Every human who ever wondered about the stars, and every human millions of years from now who looks up at a bare Saturn, doesn't get to see this. You do, right now. And if a self-cleaning, dirt-proof, magnetically scrubbed ring system sounds impossible, wait until you find out what's hiding inside the rings.
Because Cassini spotted structures in there that move on their own, towering walls of ice, and objects that might be baby moons being born right now. That's the video playing right here. Go see what's actually living inside the rings of Saturn.